Hi, this is Osama Rizvi and welcome to another episode of Monday Macro View. So in this episode, I'd like to build upon what we discussed last time, and it was LNG, it was inflation, and similarly, nowadays I come across a lot of rosy outlooks, and as a part of my job as an analyst is to analyze things in an objective manner. So that is why I am here to not to deliver bad news, but just to give a reality check, if you may, as to where things stand out in reality and how things are being perceived by the markets. So jumping right in, look at this beautiful chart. First of all, inflation forecast 2023. It has an orangish tinge to it, and you can see that as we move towards darker orange, inflation levels peak, and the lighter colors show somewhat fair sort of decrease in inflation. However, globally, so most of the chart has quite dark shades in it, which means inflation is still going to be higher. But IMF forecast that inflation rates will drop from almost 9% in 2022 to about 7% in 2023 and then 4.3% in 2024. But we all know that IMF continues to revise its outlooks. But an inflation of 6.6% still does not mean that everything is okay. And essentially, we have to differentiate what does this figure say and what actually the inflation levels are. For instance, in Pakistan, I've always quoted that the official inflation figures are around 28%. But in reality, if you consider the purchasing power parity measure or real inflation level, that is beyond 43% or 44%. Why? Because the prices at which the government sells certain commodities aren't exactly the one at which the consumers are getting it. So you see there's a difference, there's a gap, supply chain rewiring, middleman, policy hiccups or whatnot. But so we have to be quite, careful while reading into these inflationary figures. Second chart was also very interesting. It speaks about the driver of inflations. What is going to continue to drive inflation? So it's very interesting that a lot of it is going to be the core inflation, which, of course, if you include food and energy, which were two of the most significant domains or aspects that absorbed one of the most increase in inflationary levels across the world. Even then, we are seeing a rise in inflation. So you see the trend lines going up, spiking 45, 50 degrees. And that means that it's not, even though the figures or the recent reports are coming out, they seem to be rosy. It's not that. It's not the case. Thirdly, this relates, why am I showing the sources of electricity of Europe when we're talking about inflation? This relates to the composition of it. So if you see, most of the European countries still have coal, gas, and oil as their source of energy, along with wind, of course, and a big chunk of nuclear and then hydro. But coal continues to be the dominant one. Look at Germany, look in Poland, Turkey. And coal prices, we all know they have hit their highest. And as we move forward and given the mechanisms or dynamics of the global energy markets, where LNG prices are rising, where China is opening up, where the weather, as we're going to talk about, it might drop, the prices of alternative fuels to heat homes or for manufacturing or for fuel, that is going to rise. So when I talk about specifically about the falling temperatures, once again, this Mr. Leopold, a brilliant gentleman on Twitter, he shows that a drop in zonal winds is expected. So I'm not an expert in this domain per se, but what we can get easily from this is that if the zonal winds drop, there might be a drop in in temperatures as well. Hence, we will see cold weather. The next slide also shows sort of a representation in color, that you see the blue thing. It's getting the polar vortex is getting stronger. There were multiple other charts out there that shows falling temperatures in UK, Central Europe, and other parts of the world. East Asia, as we've covered the past few weeks, it is also facing a cold spell. So the demand for LNG is on the rise, and this ties neatly to what I wrote about as well in today's my insights research article for primaryrevision.co. You can check it out, where I compare that why this drop in temperature, LNG dynamics, and then inflation, why this also this creates an environment where the inflation will become sticky. Moving forward, talking about sticky inflation, this was really interesting. So the recent job report was very good, unexpectedly. But this guy, Robert Barron in Forbes, really digs deeper into it, and so we know the real economy, the financial economy, the financialization of economy, the securitization of economy, and these facts and figures really have to put into context to create sense of it. So payroll, so the retail sector added around 30,000 jobs, but retail sales have fallen from November, December, and January. So he really asked this question that why will be they adding jobs? And then the constructions, I'm not saying that the figures were forged or something, but I'm just trying to think critically that there might be something more here that has to meet the eye to make sense of it, to reconcile what's happening in reality and what does the figures mean. The construction added around 25,000 jobs, but then Mark has done a brilliant job in telling us that the building permits, the housing constructions, the construction expenditure are down in double digits. Similarly, manufacturing sector, whereas it added 20,000 jobs, but most of the regional Fed survey data has shown a drop in manufacturing. The PMI industry, you can see on your chart on the left hand, you see that the industrial production index has gone down, and the real M2 money supply index, which of course we covered once again this a lot, and I have referred to it in my articles as well, that the real M2 money supply has fallen, which has been one of the best indicators for an upcoming imminent recession. If we look at this slide, so this is the ISM and Chicago PMI. They refer to the manufacturing side of the things. And this is, so in 2001, Greenspan, when learned that the ISM index, manufacturing order index, had fallen to 42, he cut rates by 50%, 50 basis point. However, in January, the ISM index fell to 42.5, whereas Jerome Powell, he hiked interest rates. So you can see the difference here. And hiring announcements have fallen by 36% month on month in January. And I don't know, housing sector is down, which contributes a lot to about 20% to the US GDP. You can see the next slide where you see auto delinquencies going up, credit card bills. We discussed last time that even in the UK, the mortgage rates are spiking, and therefore the successful applications have fallen to 2.5-year low. This shows how are we faring in terms of the consumer side. So all of these slides, what I wanted to establish here is that in order to, of course, we all want to get positive, but it might be a little too early. Mohammed Al-Arian of the Queen's College from Cambridge University also wrote an article, and he talked about how there's a 50% chance of sticky inflation scenario, and then a 25% chance of a U-shaped inflation, and then a 25% where inflation falls. So it's better not to go into complacency, and our investment decisions and business decisions and overall market outlook should remain hinged to the fact that we aren't still there yet. We will be if things go on like this, but there are so many moving pieces. So that's all from my side. I'll see you next week, and have a great week.